Hey, what's going on, everybody? If you've ever wondered what it takes to achieve remarkable success, to overcome obstacles and transform your adversities into advantages, well, you're in the right place. Performance Shift is that show that causes big change. Then you are in the right place. I done messed that thing all the way up this
I
morning.
know what we're talking about. Transforming your performance in the face of big change, overcoming adversity, all of that. This is Performance Shift, and we're going to take you on a journey with us of discovery and exploration, and hopefully maybe even transformation, and give you the tools to navigate your own moments of change.
Yes, and I'm John Register, two-time Paralympic athlete, combat veteran, and an author.
And I am Kat Koppett, an organizational consultant, author, and improviser.
And together we're gonna help you share our expertise and insights into navigating change and finding success in the face of adversity.
Yes, we are. We are here sometimes on Saturday mornings at 9:30 Eastern US time. And you can also catch us asynchronously on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn, or just call us up.
Right. If you've been enjoying these episodes, please select the notification bell and share it with a friend. I don't know why I can't talk this morning, Kat. I think it's too early, but it's too late for you because you're not even in the United States right now.
I am not. We've got I think we have something like an 8-hour time difference between us right now. I am in Prague in the Czech Republic.
That's amazing. What's going on in Prague?
I'm at the Applied Improvisation Network Global Annual Conference. So that's a whole bunch of people just like me who use the principles and techniques of improvisation outside of traditional performance, theatrical performance settings.
Wow. What's like one thing that you've learned thus far, or are you giving out information?
Both of those things are happening. I've done a full day pre-con and a short workshop on the new book, The Facilitation Advantage. So a lot of work on that. I think one of the themes that I'm noticing and learning about from my colleagues is just an awareness that, we're living in not only turbulent and uncertain times, which improvisers are very comfortable with, relatively speaking, but also contentious times, right? There's a lot of conflict, and it feels like it's harder and harder to connect or communicate or trust each other. And so we've been exploring a lot, how do our principles and values and activities help us? I think the theme I'm noticing is sort of get under the words, right? Just like the slogans or the spraying of noise to really connect and understand and respect each other and find common ground, not get stuck in the debate.
So is that like a visioning of how we would desire to be?
Yeah, I think a part of, our topic today is story visioning. And I definitely think that part of, as we use our storytelling skills as improvisers, how do we individually, but also collectively remember what we share in terms of our vision for the future. I don't think there are a lot of people who don't want healthy, thriving communities and peace and safety and nurturing and inspiration. And, some people maybe don't, but I think the majority of us are pretty aligned on that. So and I also think that sometimes the conflict happens because we're all afraid from our own corners. And so how do we not have a vision of the future that's like everything's going to be terrible and we have to be defensive and afraid, but a vision of the future that's positive and hopeful that we can invite people into?
When I hear that, right, it kind of makes me sad that we are in such a space that we're kind of paranoid of what's directly in front of us. And so I think there's some great examples out there of people who continue to press a vision, to push a vision, so their people are aligned. I wrote down some things even this morning as I was thinking about our show today. And I was like, leaders inspire action, right? So their visions are inspiring action. Leaders move people from the reckoning through the revision to a renewal to win life's medals. So there's always this forward progress of moving. Leaders amputate fear and transform adversity into advantage. So we're always looking forward. And there's some leaders, I think, that are out there that have really done that. I think one of the things, groups that I brought up this morning is Koppett, right? Koppett is it's a dental equipment company. They've been around for like 101 years right now, and they've committed to supporting dentists and lab technicians in the preservation and replacement of their patients' natural, I guess detention, I think is what's called. I don't want to put you in detention, but I think it's it's your mouth. But the CEO, Mercedes Asanina, I was speaking for them on an occasion, and I was fascinated by how she just was relentless towards the vision of the company, to the point of aligning the values in such a way that a person who had kind of violated the values, the next morning was gone, right? I think going back to that is we need to be, what I took away from that is, can you be so clear that you know who's supposed to be riding with you and who's not supposed to be there? Who are the ones that are lifting you up? Who are the ones that are elevating you, the company, people around them? Who are the ones breathing oxygen because you set such a clear vision? Love to know what comes up for you on
that. It's hard. I mean, in some ways, it reminds me the most of Jack Welch. I mean, I'm reaching way, way back into GE history, right? And he had this framework that I learned in my 20s and was very resistant to. And then the more experience I get, both in watching organizations, but also having my own now with employees, is he was saying, there are two axes for the folks that you have with you. One is skill or ability, performance level, and you can be sort of low to high. And the other is alignment with the values. I'd say values and vision, and you can be low and high. And he was, he'd say, if you're not skilled and you're not aligned with the values, that's easy. Those people are easy to let go, right? If you're high performer and aligned with the values, that's awesome, right? You want everybody to be in that box. He said, then what about these other boxes? What about people who are aligned with the values but can't perform yet or aren't performing up to snuff? Versus people who are really high performers but not aligned with your values. He said, we spend a lot of time and often we'll get rid of the people who just aren't performing and we won't pay attention to the fact that they're aligned with our values. He said, but you want to keep those people. Those are the people you want to develop because they're going to help you create that culture. And this was the provocative part. He was like, your high performers who are not aligned with your culture are actually the most dangerous.
Right.
And we keep them because they're high performers, but not only are they themselves not going to get us where we need to go, they undermine the whole system for the very fact that they're high performers. Yeah. And
yes. I've been reading, even around this topic, rocket fuel. I can't remember the author's name, but we'll put in the show notes. But it's been fascinating with how they talk about aligning the visionary with like the action person and making sure those two functions are separated. I forget what they called it, the action person, but I was like, man, I saw so much in me in that because I'm a visionary. I don't like to do all the weed stuff, right? It's not that I can't. It's just very difficult for me to focus on it because I get another squirrel idea and I have like 10 ideas an hour that I want to do. And I want to change this. I want to change that. I want to change it. Right. And so you need somebody that the influencer, implementer, I think it's what they call it. The implementer needs to be the one that grounds you, and both need each other. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
In some ways, we're doing it right now, right? We have 10 ideas, and we're sort of, in some ways, we're talking around the topic, which is at the heart of what we said we wanted to focus on,
Right.
which is visioning. And in our series on story, what is the relationship between storytelling and having a compelling vision? And then doing all the things that we're talking about so that you can assess, are people aligned or not? So people can get on board and know themselves if they're aligned. And so I just want to sort of pause for a moment and name that
Yes.
one of there are a few ways that I think we think storytelling is connected to visioning. The first is just being able to articulate and share an existing vision. So one of the things we talk about is that you can have different types of stories that you tend to tell. And one of the ways to categorize them is they can be stories from the past. You have this incredibly compelling narrative that you tell about your life and experience, or they can be from the future, right? We can tell stories of where we're going, or if you buy this product, here's how your life will be better, right? We're painting a picture of the future. They can also be positive or negative. And so, I can tell this sort of warning story of like, if we don't, I don't know, conserve X amount of energy by X date, the world's going to blow up and be inhabitable, right? Sort of
Right.
warning. Whether or not you think it's true, that's the type of story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the type we're talking about right now are future positive stories, right? Stories that paint this picture of our goal or where we want to be. And one of the ways to engage with that is just to tell those stories, right? As a leader, to make sure that you're sharing a really vivid, robust portrait of what that positive future looks like, so that I can understand the values, so that I can get engaged, so that I can implement, because I know what success looks like.
What came up to me was a Southwest Airlines story with Gary Kelly when he was the CEO. So my wife works for the company as a flight attendant, and during the pandemic, there was this negative, like you were saying, there was this kind of doom and gloom story that the media was portraying at one point on Southwest Airlines, right? And everybody was struggling during that time. But what Gary Kelly said, and I got privileged kind of listening, I said, "Hey, can I listen in on that conversation?" When they did the all employee staff meetings. He said at some point during any time of the his remarks, he said, we've never laid anybody off here at Southwest Airlines, and we're not going to start now. And it was just that reassuring. It was said just like it was a no nonsense. Just these are just the facts. It wasn't laid out. It wasn't a demand like pound your fist on the table. We are not letting anyone. It was just we've never done that. We're not going to start now. And it was such a reassuring thing from all the negative rhetoric that was out there. And even though other airlines and we're complaining about stuff now, right? Because we didn't do that. We took those decisive actions where pilots, they chose to do early outs, and other people left all the airline industry. So now we're complaining that there are no pilots to fly, there are no flight attendants, there are no mechanics. Well, that's why I say we're still living in the pandemic, because we want it to go back to the way it was 2019, but we don't have the employees do that any longer for the specific jobs that they were doing, because a lot of them left out with the talent that you were just talking about, right? They were highly skilled, but they're like, it's time for me to move on to something else now. And so now we haven't really backfilled that. So, but the calming piece, the piece I want to share with was the calming effect that he had over all those employees, and it caused them to continue to go out and do what they do best, and that's their customer service, from the employees to the customer, and the customers then create the shareholder returns.
Yeah, there's so many levels of story in there, right?
Mm.
Like one of them is the leader sharing this vision story. Another is recognizing, we've talked in the past about this sort of ambient narratives that are surrounding us all the time, right? Like the stories that we're swimming in that might be collective or just in our own heads, but we may not even really consciously know they're there, but they're influencing us until we pay attention. And, so the ambient narratives around Southwest are, at least for me from the outside, that it's this beloved, it's like one of the good guys, right? It's this beloved, we want to become, I'm not going to get the phrase exactly right, but like the most loved, efficient, and profitable airline in the world, I think was their.
You're pretty smart. You're right on the nose.
Yeah. And the loved part, that becomes, it's not just a leader saying you should love us, but it becomes all of the sort of the reputation or the stories that get told by the customers. I can't tell you how many times a friend has said, oh, I just was on the Southwest flight and I had this fun experience with a pilot, or the flight attendant did this wonderful thing for me that was a surprise. And so when you tell that story about that moment in the pandemic, there's this ambient narrative about Southwest, which is, this is who we are and how we treat our people and what our culture is, that he's articulating. There's also the larger ambient narrative of everything's falling apart. We are going to get laid off. Like, we're not safe. And so he's explicitly sort of engaging that ambient narrative and saying, that is not, don't worry about that story. Here's the story of who we are. You will have a job. Yeah, we will continue to be who we have been.
Right. Yeah, I just found that absolutely fascinating, and it helped. It tremendously helped me, going through this time where all of the professional event planning groups that are delivering in the supply chain for an event, that's all gone because we're so that helped me kind of say, yeah, we're gone, but how do we continue to elevate and innovate and adapt in this space? So even him talking about that to his employees was helping me with the narratives and the negative narratives that were coming out, that I was watching the Facebook groups of speakers imploding, right? It's like, what's going to happen to this guy? And it was scary times because you don't know what is going to happen. So we say uncertain times. And then I just kept saying, I kept going, I always kept trying to do the opposite, telling myself and envisioning the opposite statement. When did you ever have certainty, John? When did you ever really know what's going to happen? I mean, we thought we know what's going to happen, but if I knew the pandemic was going to happen, I would have prepared better for it, probably.
Yeah.
So I kept telling myself that. And when people said, I can't shift, I can't pivot, I can't do this, I said, well, I'm going to pivot, I'm going to shift, I'm going to do this. I just kept taking the opposite of what folks were saying and finding people who were saying something very similar to me. So I went from 0 engagements just by, writing on my vision board, like the positive messages, went from 0 to 290 by the end of, December 31st of 2021. So of events. And I think that's what happens. We talk ourselves by visioning we put ourselves on a positive track. So like you're saying, a future state of positivity.
So, what I'm thinking about as we're talking is what's the difference between like a vision statement and a vision story? And to some extent, I think it's just about adding the color, like, here's what it would look like. Imagine this. There's another level in which we explicitly use story sharing, but also story structures to actualize a vision, right? So if the statement is, here's the future state, we want to be the most loved, most efficient, most profitable airline, then where are we today? And how are we going to get there? That becomes the story, right? The main story that we want people to tell and engage. And if I say, okay, here's the current state, we are that. And we're going to continue to be that a year from now, even though we're going through hard times. That's a vision story. The original story might have been, we don't exist. We're starting a new company. It's a world in which airlines are seen in this way. They're adversarial, or dentists, right? Everybody hates going to the dentist. People are afraid, they think it's painful. Dentists are depressed and killing themselves, right? The vision is people have great teeth. They look forward and trust their dentists. Dentists feel like they're delighted to go to work. That's the vision. How are we going to get from here, current state, to there? There's a way to really notice that as a narrative arc. So, the platform, once upon a time, every day at the beginning of the story, is the current state. The ever since then, happily ever after becomes the vision. And then individually and collectively, you can say, okay, so what's the first step we're going to take to get there? And then what? And then what?
And that's in the story spine.
That, the story spine is an explicit tool, which some of us have, seen in the past, and we'll share it again in a minute, to help us do that, again, individually or collectively as a group, to map that out. But whether you're using the story spine or not, just that sort of, this is the current state, if something's true, then something changes or we do something, and then something new is true, allows us to engage with our visions in ways that make us able to say, great, oh, I know what to do, or I can take some action, or I can be invested, as opposed to it just being a picture out there and I don't know how to reach it. I'm curious about, maybe you have something else you want to say right now, but when I hear myself talking about this, I'm just curious about your story. I think you have great stories about, like, you were in a certain point and at some point you had a revelation or a vision of a future state, and then sort of that mapped for you how you might get there.
I think, thanks for asking that, because as I'm even thinking about it even now, I'm going back to stories where that was true for me very early on in life. Right. So it could be even the 8th grade dance when you got the girls on one side, the guys on the other side, and never to the twain meet, right? The music's playing and no one wants to make the first move. But there's always a person that did take the first move because they saw a different vision than everybody else. They saw acceptance rather than rejection, or they hoped that acceptance was going to happen when they asked the young lady, or the lady asked the young man, young boy, to dance. And then I see it inside of what I was learning through running hurdles. And before the race, when they says, quiet for the start, that was a time that I began learning to run my race like 3 times over in my head before I got down to the starting blocks. I could see myself running that race. I would vision the successful outcome of the race without even realizing I was doing it. I would just kind of settle myself. I'd look down the hurdle lane and I would watch it, and I would lock that vision in when I put my head down into the starting blocks. So I could actually see it, what I was looking at. I could see the weather, I could see the days, I could see the birds, I could see all these things that were around, but I was focused in on my lane, my race. And I believe those were stepping stones for things that would come later to make me see the positive outcomes. I think a lot of athletes are like that as well. I think musicians are like that, and actors are like that, because they can always see, they can tell themselves what's going to happen, and then they just try to follow the path. So when it comes to, I would say, the larger decision, right? Even going back to the amputation, I'm struggling here because I don't know if it was, if I have remnants of thinking of that life can be better. I think even in that moment, I thought life could be better. I didn't know how it could be better. I just had a hope that was in, right? Yeah. What's the phrase? I don't get this wrong too. A person can live, was it 7 days without food, 3 days without water, maybe 4 minutes without oxygen, but only 1 second without hope. And people, they kind of put out there that hope's not a plan. Yeah, but if you don't have hope, you don't even get to make the plan.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, no, I love that. And I think one of the things that activates hope, it feels sort of profoundly important right now in this moment for us. Yeah. One of the things, when I say us, I mean us human beings on the planet Earth, right? That one of the things that it seems to me activates hope is not just a pretty picture of a possible future.
Right.
But some kind of understanding or confidence or belief or faith that I can get from here to there, that I am empowered to help create that vision. There's something for me to do to actualize it. And that's really where hope can live, I think, for most of us. And so if we think about, name your poison, climate change, or creating peace across differences in regions of the world, or political fracturing of a culture, or whatever it is, death of our social connections and moral codes, whatever you want, whatever you think, like, oh no, here's the vision, I want that to be better. If we can start to think narratively and see a path, like today we feel scared or disconnected from our fellow citizens. What is the thing that we can do? Like, what's the one thing I might do to start on the journey to make a vision of something better a reality? That's where I think hope lives.
Yeah. I'm just trying to place it inside of, I'm trying to wrestle with it inside of my own narrative. And there was a point when I saw, before we knew what was going on with like O.J. Simpson, right? It was on June 17th, 1994. And he's in this white Bronco. We don't know anything that's happening. All we see is this white Bronco chase. And the suicide note is being read by the people on television. That's like, oh my gosh, O.J. Simpson looks like he's going to kill himself. What's happening? And at that time, I was in the most pain I'd ever been in my life with my amputation. And it was one of those just horrible days. It was probably the worst day of pain I'd ever been in my life, even up to this point. I've had a lot of phantom pain since that time, but that was a day. That was a day. It wasn't even full. It was the hours, right? And I knew that it would get worse before it got better. I knew it was going down, right? But when I heard those words, that was kind of for me, it settled me. And I said, no matter how bad this thing gets, I'm never going to check out. Because there's going to be there will be a turn. And I'm in that one thing that you were just talking about. I was holding on to that. I was holding on to the turn.
Something will change.
Something will change, right? Yeah.
So we've been talking around it. You named it. Maybe we should share the story spine and then show how we use it, not just with individuals, but with clients and teams and organizations to help them turn a vision picture or statement into an actual story that people can engage in and see the path. Yeah?
Yeah, for sure. Here we go.
All right. So for some of you already may be familiar with this. This is a structure created by Ken Adams to encapsulate sort of the key elements of a story. So the once upon a time and every day, forgive the spacing there, is the platform of the story, as we've been saying, sort of the routine, the current state. Yeah.
Right.
But one day is a catalyst. It's not the end, it's not a solution, but what is the domino tip or the one adventure Frodo leaves the Shire, right, to go on his adventure with Ring. It's going to be a very long journey, but
Right.
that's the thing that changes the routine. You know, the current state of like darkness is coming across the land and there's nobody there to help us. But one day Frodo is convinced to go on this journey to try to get the, you know, to bring the ring and destroy
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Because of that, there are all sorts of consequences. And then until finally is kind of the climax, what's going to decide the question, will we succeed in overcoming evil or not? And then there's this new routine, and the new routine, the resolution, is our vision. So if we put that into visioning structure, we can say today is like this, and every day we struggle with incredible physical pain, or we are fighting each other as citizens in our country, right? Or the temperatures are rising on Earth, or we're getting less connected, more into our devices and life, right? Name your current state that you want to change. Or we're not a profitable organization, or we don't have the employees that we need to have to make this work. When you get to the catalyst, you say, but soon we will, right? But if we make this change, right? But soon the pain will diminish. If we all, you know, if we all call our, but we're going to call our friends and invite them to come work for us. But we're going to reach out to VCs and get investment, you know, whatever it is. But we're going to innovate and create electric cars that are going to make the environment better. And then what's going to happen because of that? But one day we called our friends and said, come join our company. And because of that, we had an influx of really talented, passionate people. And because of that, we found exactly the people we wanted. And because of that, we had the capacity to do what we wanted. The climax is sort of the answer to the question, until finally we will have all of the talent and passion and capacity that we need to be the most loved, efficient, and effective, profitable organization in the world. And the future state is that we will be realized. It will be realized.
That's so good. It's so easy when you say it.
Well, yeah.
That's why you're in Prague.
Easier said than done. But I wonder, maybe in our last 2 minutes or so that we have together, do we want to try maybe a sentence at a time to build one together? What's
let's do that. You know?
Yeah. So maybe let's start with the end state and we'll build towards it. So what is a future vision that you have, John?
Future vision. Let's say to be a I don't know.
I don't mean to put
a referral company for Olympic and Paralympic speakers.
Great. So you are the premier referral agency for Paralympic and Olympic speakers.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's start with today. So once upon a time, today is what's true today for you?
That I'm not.
Excellent. Great. So today you are an individual speaker.
Right.
And every day you coach other people and you promote them informally, and you make the majority of your living as a sought after keynote speaker as an individual.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. But one day, what's one thing that you will do or can do? And I say, when we say will, maybe in the next half hour or day or week or year.
One day I get a call for an opportunity that I am not able to do because I'm booked for that day. And I offer another professional athlete that I've trained to fill that position in that slot.
Great. And I'm guessing that's something that's happened in the past. It's something that you know will happen, right? But one day I take the gigs that I can't do and I connect to them, and I'm tweaking a little bit. You notice that You're
Yeah.
receiving a call and making it something more active that you could do. But one day you're going to take a gig that you're not available for, a request, and pass it along to another athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because of that, what's going to happen?
So because of that, maybe I begin to build a database of these like-minded or like-minded speakers.
Great. So because of that, you start, it is what I heard, because of that, you realized, oh, I have these opportunities. Let me gather people so the next time I'll be prepared. Yeah, with that database.
Right. And because of that, I seek out to, for every opportunity that I do, I promote the other speakers to do those events the next year.
Fantastic. And because of that, people start knowing that you're the person to contact, not just when they've used you, but when they want someone with the same kind of quality or interest. Until finally,
I formalize a speaker referable company.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the future state, ever since then, you are the premier place, the first people that people think of and call when they want the very best Paralympic and Olympic speakers.
I love it. Let's put it together.
Yeah.
It's not really what I want to do, but that's good. That's great exercise.
Yeah,
That's
right.
awesome.
So often when I go into organizations and, I'm running offsites or helping teams vision, we'll do work on the vision statement. Where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be 3 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have that beautiful vision. And then we go like, okay, but how is that going to happen? What are you, John, going to do? What's the one first thing that you can do that can be your but one day that's different from what you're doing today that's going to end you up there? How are you going to what's the leaving the Shire moment for you? Great. As a team, collectively, what's the one thing you're all going to commit to doing, right? Maybe it's setting agreements about how we talk to each other. Maybe it's about prioritizing our tasks, whatever it is. So there you go.
Well, the reason why you're so good at this is because you've done it for such a long time, right? And so you can hear me struggling trying to, put the words and find them. And then you're able to even take them and shift them. And this, I don't want people to miss that. That's why you get a professional like Kat, right, to come in to help you. I'm being sincere. I mean, it's really because Kat can really help you articulate the vision that you have and walk you through a process because she's done it hundreds and hundreds of times. And so her exercise muscle is so skilled that she just sees it before fast and you can see it. And she has the she allows you the space and grace to grow to get there. And at the same time, she's in pride because she's sharpening her own saw. So that's that's who you want to hang around. I won't let her go. So, she's mine.
Well, you're going to have to let me go because in 20 minutes, I have to present here in Prague. So I'm going to be leaving you soon, but thank you for those very kind words. And yeah, when I'm doing my best work, I feel sort of like a little Sherpa who's just been up the mountain before and can help guide you. And I know that that's, of course, John, your superpower is that not just on a professional level, but also on a personal level, you've traversed this territory. And so you're a perfect skilled guide for folks looking to create a vision and then overcome the adversity to get there.
Beautiful. Well, I know you got to go. I know you got to get downstairs, and I know you got to leave the room so you can get your person to come in there and clean it up. So there.
See my unmade bed.
Yeah, unmade bed. I do it all the time. I just get up. I got a show to do. Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's episode of Performance Shift. I'm actually going to see if I can get through this outro without even saying a mistake word. But you know what? Mistake word. That's even a mistake. Oh. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and gained some valuable insight that you can apply to your own life and work. If you want to learn more about the power of transformation, how you can shift your own performance to achieve your goals and dreams, Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, our LinkedIn Live, Facebook, and YouTube channel, and join us for our next episode. And if you found this episode helpful, we'd love to hear. Share a review on your favorite social media channel so that we can see it as well. And then your feedback helps us to improve the show and reach more listeners like you. See you next episode. And when we talk about the stories that we are willing to tell ourselves and tell others. See that? I messed up everything.
You did great.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. Bye, Kat.
Bye, John.